Hi, I'm Jack Canfield. I'd like to welcome you to Talking About Success. My next guest is Robyn DeLong. We're going to talk tonight about grief and how to go from grief to grace, how not to get stuck in it, how not to drown in it. So welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Jack.
Appreciate that very much. Now, you've written 2 books and developed a course. We're going to talk about all 3 of those. And this first one's called From Grief to Grace.
You're not the first one that said that.
From Grief to Grace. No, from Grief to Grace. And it's a book that's based on your own story of losing your son and how you moved through that. So let's talk about the event that created this book and what you learned from it and how that can be helpful to all the viewers out there, because we all suffer loss. I mean, I think someone once said the worst loss ever is the loss of your own child. That's the hardest one to deal with. We're supposed to outlive our children.
We are.
But we lose our parents, we lose spouses, sometimes through death, sometimes through divorce, we lose jobs, we lose our dreams, sometimes we lose parts of our body in an accident, whatever. So let's start with your experience, and then we'll take it and we'll generalize it out to all of us.
Well, my youngest son was 36 years old. A magnificent individual. I guess all mothers think their children are magnificent, but he lived an incredibly full life. He was a singer and entertainer, and one of my greatest joys was watching him perform on stage. And I got a call on an ordinary day, a Thursday morning. It was one of those beautiful sunny days, and it was 7:35 in the morning, and I got this call telling me that my son was gone. I thought, what do you mean my son is gone? But gone meant, and that experience of trying to put that in some kind of perspective and knowing when it went in that there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't change that fact. So here I am, the joy of my life, and he's gone. And I had enough training. I give you credit for the event plus response equals outcome. Not that I was thinking that, but that was, I think I called on all the foundations I'd ever built. One of them was, I have something to say about how this is going to turn out. How I label it is going to make a difference. How I be with it, how I manage this is going to have me either have it be a blessing or the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I also knew that when the universe gives you something that doesn't look pretty, there's usually a balancing. So this was one of the ugliest things I could imagine, and I demanded a blessing. I'm like, you don't get to do this unless I get a blessing out of this. And I think I sometimes look, well, what is the blessing? But the blessing, I believe, is that it just cracked my heart so wide open that I no longer had any pretense about life and being available to people and compassion. There's just so much that I tell people, if life breaks your heart open, leave it open.
That's actually very beautiful. If life breaks your heart open, leave it open.
Leave it open.
Because if it wasn't open in the first place, not so good.
Not so good.
Yeah, beautiful.
And there's joy. Parents, I've watched parents that have this event in their life when they've experienced the death of a child. They'll bury themselves with their child's ashes, or they'll have something that gets beyond them. Like there's parents from Sandy Hook that have started a foundation that is so vital when you start looking at what causes someone to go into a school and shoot. And she said, it's not enough love. People aren't taught, they aren't given the experience of love. And so she started a foundation to go into the schools and teach how to love each other. You can take it and have it grow and expand, and you embrace the experience.
No, I know a number of people. Ken Druck, who lost his daughter Jenna in India in an accident in school. A school bus went over the side of a mountain, and he started the Ken and Jenna Drunk Foundation. The woman started Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Exactly.
Said, how do I take this and turn it into something good in the world?
Exactly.
As opposed to just basically give up and die yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not meant to be.
And it's not what your child would want.
No.
You know, my son, being a musician, he had written a song. I love this story because he was a musician who wrote a lot of lyrics and played a lot of different songs, but he'd never written anything about angels. And he collaborated with a gentleman whose niece had died, and the gentleman was a musician, not lyricist, but would write piano. And he gave Michael this tune and said, here, see what you can do with this. Didn't tell him that this tune was inspired by the death of his niece. Didn't tell him that. And he handed it off to Michael, and Michael went home. I did hear Michael play it on the guitar. He asked me to come in and listen to this song, and I remember hearing him play it on the guitar. I never heard it again until right before his funeral. Then I heard the whole song, all recorded, and it was "Listen to Your Angels," and it's the most beautiful song. And he talks about listening to your angels, and then there's a point in it when he's talking about do this, do that. Then there's a point towards the end where it's like he's talking directly to me, and he says, "I'll meet you at the end of the rainbow. I promise you this. Anytime the rain clouds gather, I'm there. You can't miss. So fill your life up full with joy and laughter. Laughter is a very vital thing. Listen to your angels. They know why you're here and what you came to bring."
Beautiful.
And
I believe that's poems in here, isn't it? I mean, it's the lyrics of the song that are in here, because I remember leaping through this, and that was one of the first things I saw. Talk to me about your son still being present in your life. I think this is I recently went to a lecture put on by the Association of Near-Death Studies, and it was a man who talked about how the dead don't leave us. They're still here. They're communicating with us if we'll pay attention.
If we'll pay attention.
And I realized, and I didn't know this when my mother died many years ago, and I wasn't real happy with her, and I kind of talked negatively about her. And then when I heard this, I thought, oh my God, she's there listening.
She is. She is.
And I really, really loved my mother because she divorced my father when he was abusive to us, and it was a big step for a Catholic to take when they excommunicated people. And so it really shifted me. But beyond that, they're available to communicate with. So because you talk about that in your book as well.
I do, and what I've learned well, first of all, let me just tell you, I was a very normal human being. I didn't have any psychic. I wasn't psychic. I wasn't talking to dead people. There was none of that going on with me. I had an interest in afterlife things, but not like the interest that a chicken might have with the breakfast with an egg, but not like the pig has, there's like a commitment.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden I was like, I got to know about this stuff, because right after Michael passed, I was having hummingbirds coming around me, and people were giving me hummingbird gifts, and a woman drew a hummingbird card that was, can I draw this in honor of Michael, and it's about joy. I mean, it was just like hummingbird, and people were having hummingbird sightings. And then it was like a code. Then there would be another thing that would happen. I started to see the numbers 9 and 11 and 6 and combinations of those, and I didn't understand that until I realized that 9 is a completion number. He was 36. He died on the 99th day after his 36th birthday. I mean, I can go on. When I got the code, I went, oh. And so it's like I call it winking. He'll wink at me with numbers a lot. His stage name was Resh Michael. He gave that, a monk had given him the name of Naresh, and then he shortened it to Resh. And he had a friend that said, next is going to be Shush. But anyway, his name was Resh Michael. And I did go to an afterlife awareness conference to learn more about how this phenomenon is very real. And they've done triple blind studies with mediums. So this was a particularly good medium, and she was reading, and it was like, 300 people in the audience. And I thought, she was saying that spirits were popping up all around and they would be tripping over each other. And I thought, well, I know Michael. He's not going to elbow his way in there, you know? So I'm watching, and sure enough, he didn't. I said, well, it would be nice to get a sign, Michael. So we go out of that room, and I thought, I'm going to go get this woman's book. And in the back of this room is a huge hotel room. Way in the back, there's all these booths set up. So I go to the very back of the room. I go to the back corner. I hadn't been back there, and I've asked him for a sign. There is this poster this big, and it says, let's see, Foundation, the Resch Foundation. It was like, I'm like, Resch, you don't see. Spirit of Resch Foundation.
Spirit of Resch Foundation.
Spirit of Resch Foundation with the ocean and the rainbow. It didn't have a hummingbird, but I mean, I thought that's pretty close, the rainbow and the Resch Foundation. I just cracked up. I'm like, that's a pretty big sign.
It's a big sign.
A big sign.
Both
big
metaphorically
sign.
and
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah.
So you have a hummingbird at the end of a rainbow.
I
here
do.
On your book. Now you have a second book.
Right.
Which you came out with later.
Right.
Again, the hummingbird's up here now.
Yeah, it's
another
ascending,
rainbow.
right.
Sure. And this is called From Grief to Grace, An Upward Spiral of Healing, a guide to finding the good in unspeakable sorrow. Talk about this book a little bit.
Well, I wanted to have something that people could literally start journaling. Journaling was very important to me, and they could. This has an introduction. It has some stories, some fun stories, and it's inspirational. But a good portion of the book has. You'll notice each one of these has a quote. So if you look at the bottom, there's a quote, and then there's a sentence stem at the top. So you can read the quote and you can journal. And I designed it so it takes you through, starting with just beginning to embrace the process. This one has the embracing the process, and then starting to explore what are the thoughts and feelings that you're having. You know, when you change a thought, you change the whole experience.
Right.
So looking to see what are the thoughts, how do you change that, then who you were a little further on, you don't get that right at the beginning. Who do I need to forgive? You know, who can I bless today? So it really, by the time someone would go through this 90 days, I believe they would have a different experience of grief than when they started.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now you've also put together a course.
I have.
I have the little book here, which has some of it in it. Again, From Grief to Grace, but then it says, Living Joyfully from a Broken Open Heart. We talked about broken open heart earlier. Now, tell us a little about the course.
Well, again, I knew that having the ability to go from where you are and looking at what are the exercises, what are the activities that you can do that would take you through up, you know, like enter into this upward spiral. I really think it's a vortex that if you step into it, it really just pulls you right on up. That was my experience. I looked back and I said, what happened? And I could see that I had been willing to embrace and then to explore what was going on and to allow myself to empower new thoughts and new ways of being. And then I kept expanding to include what was next. So this takes you through 10 lessons, but each of them has activities. So you begin to shift the way that you're being with the death, starting with embracing the fact that it happened and embracing that, you know, getting really clear about how much you love this person, beginning to realize that there are new ways to be with them. So we teach that part too. I think that when you really get how rich the soil of sorrow is, you would want to use it to grow.
Very good, very good. Well, I love all this. Now, this is an online course.
Yes.
Tell us how people can get in touch with that.
Well, if they go to my website, robyndelong.com.
Okay, perfect. And then your books are also available.
They're on Amazon.
Amazon.com, all the usual places. Okay,
All the usual places. Maybe the online course can be there. I don't know if Amazon markets online courses or not.
I don't think so, but you have a group you're working with, Rizuku, is it?
Well, that's the platform, and it's a great platform. Yeah, I like that platform for
At your
teaching.
website, you'll direct people how to
I
get
will
there.
direct them right there.
All right,
yes.
very good. All right, you've heard it, RobynDeLong.com, and this is a person who can help you deal with grief. If you're dealing with grief of any kind, or you know someone who is, that's not doing as well as they could, it's not transforming, but is stuck, these are great resources. You want it for yourself, you want to share it with other people. So thank you very much, Robyn.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you for joining us tonight. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this message.